Hello everyone, Lady Joyful here from the Joyful Soul Creates. Today I have this cute little pig card to share with you. I made this for the current Lawn Fawn challenge, which is watercolour, and that has about a day left as I'm making this if you're interested in entering. I'm going to be using the Critters on the Farm stamp set, which is new to me but was actually released in 2011, so it's an older set. Here I'm just trimming the top off the casing because this is a good way to store the stamp sets rather than buying stamp pockets for them. I saw this tip on May Park's channel, Mayholic Design, and thought it was a very good idea, so I've started doing that now. And then I need to chop down some watercolour paper to use for my card base. I'm just laying out all my elements so I know roughly what size I want, and using the lines on my grip mat to work out how big I need to cut this down. So it's going to be 10.5 centimeters square. The layout I'm using for this card is the current MFT, my favourite thing, Sketch Challenge. That's challenge 339, which I believe has about 3 days left now. Which is why I'm making a square card, because it's a square sketch. So I just need to trim away the end because I didn't quite get it lined up properly when I folded it. And checking where I need my little pig to go. I'm going to use my MISTI because this is very textured watercolour paper and I'll need to stamp it a few times to make sure it takes properly. I'm going to heat emboss this with black embossing powder because I find black embossing powder gives crisper lines than clear powder on black ink. That said, black embossing powder I do not like very much because I always manage to make a terrible mess with it, even when I treat the paper before using it. It doesn't actually show up on the camera, luckily, but it did make a bit of a mess there. So now I've taped the panel down and I'm just starting off by adding clear water all around the image and the background. I'm going to be doing the wet on wet watercolour technique. So I'll start by dropping in some blue to create my sky, and you can see it blooming through the water that's already there. And then I'll add some green for the grass and let them blend together a bit, add some more water and blend them out. It's very simple watercolouring, nothing fancy. I'm just blotting up some of the extra water there, going back in and adding another layer of green for the grass, and then I'll add some more blue to the sky. First I'm going to heat set it. If you just put all your layers wet on wet, they'll blend more smoothly than if you let them dry in between. If they dry in between, you'll have kind of harsher lines, and that was the look I wanted today, so I kept going in and drying in between layers and then adding more water and more colour, drying again, and keep building it up until I was happy with it, and blotting away the excess as needed. So there I'm drying it again, add a little bit more blue to sky, and now I can start on the pig. I did change my water first. And I wanted to do a nice pink pig, but I had this kind of pinky red shade, definitely more red than pink, so I just used a very diluted version, very watered down to keep it pale and pink looking rather than red, and again going in and building up the layers, drying in between, adding more colour and building it up until I'm happy with it. I do enjoy watercolouring. I'm not the best at it by any means, but I do have fun with it, and this was nice and relaxing after I'd been spending the whole day doing die cutting for some thank you cards I'm making as a wedding present. So now that the painting's finished, I'm going to cut out my frame. At this point I was thinking I would make a pink frame to bring out the pink of the pig. I changed my mind later, as you'll see, but here I'm just lining up the dies. These are some memory box dies called Studio Square Layers. I believe these ones are retired now, but you could use any square dies or frame dies if you have those. I don't have any frame dies. So now I'm trying a couple of different coloured papers because I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to go for at this point. I felt like the pink actually detracted from the pig a bit. So in the end I settled on this blue frame. I thought that looked best of the three that I'd cut out. I'm just working out where I'll put my sentiment, and I decided it would be easiest to stick the frame down first, so I'm using my glue pen to do that. Just using my tweezers to help me line it up, and actually I think I ended up sticking it a bit higher than I would have preferred, but it doesn't matter. I'll use my acrylic block to weigh it down and make sure it presses properly in place, and then bring it into my MISTI, line up the sentiment again. I think it actually ended up stamping a little bit wonky, but never mind. And again I'm going to have to stamp this. I think I stamp it 3 times in the end to make sure it gets a good impression on that very textured paper. And then that's the card done. This watercolour paper is very thick, so I did have to crease it a bit more to help it fold properly. If you're interested in joining either of these challenges yourself, I'll have links to them down below. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. If you want to see another watercolour video I've done, you can click the link here, and there's also a link to a slider card I created if you would be interested in that one. And I will see you again in the next video. Thanks. Bye.